To applause, so thank you very much for that. Thank you for having me here today. I always relish the opportunity to bring forward the facts and the numbers. And a lot of folks believe because I'm a local girl and I grew up in Andrews, and I do love Andrews and have ties to Andrews, that I'm going to be biased to make sure that what was it Matt Osborne said in the paper, the new super school would be built in Andrews, and your child would be on a bus from Utica to Andrews. So, no, that's not the case. That's not going to happen. My success is tied to the success of all of our schools, and all of our kids are important. And I want to brag on Cherokee County. When I go to conferences, I am contacted by other superintendents from other states. Cherokee County stands out as a high performer. And the big thing that makes us special is that we're able to do it with not as much money. And I'll talk a little bit about that too. There may be a lot of the dynamics of our schools. We have 13 schools now, not 14. And giving you some of these facts may help you understand the dynamics of why we're talking the way we are in the different scenarios that we're going to propose. We employ over 500 people. 273 of those are certified teachers, 54 teacher assistants, 52 child nutrition employees, 20 custodians, 27 clerical, 48 bus drivers, 11 maintenance and transportation. We have 120 part-time employees, 4 network support people, 4 SROs, 4 school resource officers for 13 campuses, the same 4 nurses for 13 campuses. Those numbers are the ones that scare me. Our liabilities now are such that we used to just worry about the academic component and giving our kids the 3 R's. And now our jobs are primarily social. We worry about safety. I left the room a minute ago is to talk to the DA. I've met with the sheriff 3 times this week. There are a lot of components of my job that was in no textbook that we're dealing with. So that's a piece of attention we're going to have to pay, safety and security for our students. Every school needs an SRO. But when you think about it, we live in a county where Sheriff Palmer only has 16 patrolmen. It seems kind of crazy that I would ask for 13 also, but that's a bigger conversation. 2 physical therapists, 2 occupational therapists, and 2 social workers. So we drive a lot of the economy by employing a lot of the people who live here. Transportation. Currently enrolled, we have 3,226 students in Cherokee County. That's a very important number because at 3,200, we qualify for something called Small Schools Funds. That's $1.5 million. I'll talk a little bit about that going forward, but we did lose that in 2012. We had $1.5 million ripped out of our budget, and we've been playing catch up ever since. So when you think about the fact that we're only 27 students over, it's heart-wrenching. And our commissioners and Senator Davis and Kevin Corbin, actually we were speaking to him this morning, have stepped in to try to help us find some flexibility in that number, and we've got some good news. Maybe that money may be coming back to us. We hope so, but I'm not going to count on it yet. We have 48 buses that travel 2,605 miles every day. The state allots us transportation money based on the number of students you travel who are on the bus divided by the number of miles. And the way Cherokee County is set up currently with the small schools model, which is a wonderful model. I went to school in Cherokee County. I was raised that way. I love that model. But if we keep that model, we just need to know going forward what it's going to cost us financially. And I will never be one to say trade-off finance for good education. So people who think I'm out to close schools for the money don't know my heart as a teacher. I started in the classroom. So my heart is always going to be with that small size classes and those small buildings. But the truth of the matter is, in transportation, for example, we just made a change this week as school came back into session from Christmas break. The students at Peachtree Elementary are having a different experience on the bus. Previously, Peachtree Elementary had 2 buses that ran for just their school. Murphy High, Murphy and Andrews schools, those elementary students there have to ride with high schoolers. That sounds bad, but that's efficient. So we changed the bus route in Peachtree. Previously, we would have Peachtree elementary kids riding along, and then another bus from Murphy High with Peachtree kids riding along right behind it. I'm sorry, you're not in kindergarten. I can't get the teacher out of me. It's like I've got hand puppets or something. So I'm sorry. That's not I don't think that you all need these graphics. This is just what I do. But anyway, so you've got two schools traveling the same road, almost sometimes doing the same stop. So you can see how the state looks at us on a map, and we're saying that it's important to us to keep those elementary kids separate from the high school kids. They don't care. So we have to make up for those dollars they're not giving us locally. And that's a trade-off. So we're paying for gas and a bus driver and another bus sometimes instead of fixing a facility. Does that make sense? So we took a hard decision and decided to let the elementary and the high school kids, the Peachtree kids, and the high school, Peachtree kids and the high school kids ride the same bus. We adjusted some schedules. They all fit perfectly, and we've got cameras on the buses. They're just going to have to behave. Every year we travel an average of 468,900 miles. And every day, at any given day, we average about 1,689 students rolling on our buses. Now, Superintendent, I should be sitting at my desk concerned about test scores, concerned about learning. The scariest parts of my day are in the morning when the buses are loading and in the afternoon when they're going home. Every day when everybody clears off the radio about 5:30 and says everybody's home safe. And we've never lost a kid. We've misplaced them. We've never lost a kid. Not during my tenure. That's when I relax. Because we, as teachers and educators, we need to make a promise to our community that we need to get your kids back home to you in just as good a shape as you sent them. So if we've done that, we're happy. And in the middle, we hope to teach them something too. We, as far as our child nutrition is considered, our CEP program participants. That means that we are so poor that we qualify for a grant with the USDA. Every student in Cherokee County is given free breakfast if they want it. And every child grades pre-K through grade 8 gets free lunch if they want it. Now, think about that, the way, you may know a little bit about the way federal grants come down. What they're saying is, it is cheaper for us to feed all your kids than it is to process your paperwork. That's basically what they're saying. So, Cherokee County is a very special place. In lots of places it's feast or famine. Kids either have everything they need plus, or kids are really doing without. And we fall into that 75-80% of the students enrolled in our schools below the poverty level. That's scary. Another interesting thing about child nutrition, we run 12 cafeterias. George is in the restaurant business. Some of y'all have been in the restaurant business, or maybe are. That's a difficult, expensive procedure. 12 restaurants every day. None of them break even. None of our restaurants break even. So when we're talking about consolidating, one of the opportunities there is to share a cafeteria, to run one instead of three on one campus. For example, if one of the structures that it was voted on or decided to be built was a campus that had 3 separate schools on it, an elementary, middle, and a high, unified by a single kitchen with different dining sections, you could run one singular kitchen staff, one manager, one place. So although that's pricey up front, over time, 50 or 60 years from now, you would be getting a return on investment there. And 50 or 60 years, that's wishful thinking in building a new school. So but that's kind of where we are. But every day we serve almost 2,000 breakfasts, 2,378 lunches, and at least 121 after-school snacks. Also, most of the churches in the area and the Vanna Food Bank pull together, and on a weekly basis we send home about 450 backpacks with different students who are desperately in need to eat on the weekend. And so if you ever get help with that, make sure you buy the little cans with the pull top, because nobody knows how to use a can opener anymore. So, what's driving the study? One of the things that's happened since in 2008, when Jeanette Hedrick left office, we were in the middle of building an addition to Ranger School. That's the last building project that we've taken on or have done. Pretty much we have tried to maintain what we have, and in my opinion, lots of things have been neglected. So a lot of big ticket items have been coming forward all of a sudden. Every month we're going to the commissioners. $60,000 for a boiler at Ranger. Actually, this is how that played out. It was right before end of grade testing. It was hotter than Hades. It was June, and Murphy Middle's boiler went out. Air conditioning system went out. So it cost us all of a sudden about $70,000 to replace that. So we thought we'd be proactive, and we looked at the other buildings building around the same time. Ranger was next. We will go ahead because it's showing signs of wear, and it's cheaper to replace than to purchase the parts that they no longer make to try to keep this thing going. So we thought ahead, and we purchased the system for Ranger, and we're having that installed when Murphy Elementary went down. So within 2 months, we had to go to the commissioners for more than $120,000 just for heating and cooling issues. And that's money that you all know. You have houses you try to sell. Sometimes you got to put money into foundation and to roof, and those are things people don't see. They don't see those improvements. They want the pretty stuff, the cosmetic stuff. So that's very frustrating. So we are doing good things with our tax dollars, just it's not always evident in a new activity bus or a football field. So more than $1 million of local tax money, providing 16 and now 22 teachers, have been given to us to fill the gap lost by small schools funds. The state will only allot, let me see if there's anything else there. We have a $38.2 million budget, and we get $6.5 million from Cherokee County. So we're a big category in their annual budget. Our average daily membership count, and I know those numbers are small, but I'll read them to you. Currently we have 3,227, but in 2005-06, that's 11, 12 years ago, we had 3,629. So in 12 years, we've lost 392 students in our average daily membership. That's a school the size of Andrews Elementary that have been left. That's a school the size of Peachtree and Martins Creek put together that have been left. So we're still trying to operate with the same number of buildings when we're serving fewer children. So we're not getting money for those children in our... Add to that, this is me whining just a little bit about budget, and I'll do it and then I'll stop. Add to that in 2005, 2006, we were receiving an average of $5,980 per student. Okay, that was pretty decent funding then. We also had small schools money. This past year, we received $5,616. We're receiving less per student now than we did in 2005, 2006. And the price of everything has gone up. And we've lost our small schools money. So, and our buildings are aging. That's hard to read. I don't know what happened there, but so when you average the loss, when you take those 329 students we no longer have and multiply that by $5,616, that's no longer in your budget, and you add to it the loss of small schools funds, our total budget is down $2,201,472 from 2012. So it kind of became a big joke among our faculty that we've been asked to do more with less, but it really is the truth. $3 million, almost $4 million compared to 2007. Teacher allotment is very strange. People believe that if you've got a classroom, the state will give you a teacher. That's not the truth. They look at your number of students, and they say every classroom should have an average of about 20 students, and they give you that number. We are not set up like that. Peachtree and Martins Creek, we have had to hire 173 teachers to cover our student population this year. And they've only allotted 149.28. I don't know how you allot 0.28 of a teacher. It can happen. I think I know who he is. I think I know. So you subtract 149 from 173, we're 24 teachers over. So somebody's got to make up that difference. We go with our handout to the commissioners to make up the difference for that. So when they're giving us the money for those teachers, 24 teachers times an average of $50,000 teacher, because we have to pay FICA and all that stuff, then that's money they can't put into facilities for us, or into new schools, or into school buses or activity buses. So what's the discrepancy? It's because the state allots teachers not by building, but by overall number of students. And these are some exact scenarios. When I've done this presentation, teachers, their spine I can see them like cats with the hair coming out, because everybody's really protective of their classrooms, and I love them too. But for example, this is actually happening. 22 students in the 3rd grade. Oh, I'm talking about class size allotment now. So the state law requires that K-3 must be below 20 kids in every class, and they're very serious about it. Monthly, they troll through our allotment numbers, and if we are over, I have to sign something. I have 2 weeks to get it fixed, or they begin taking a week's salary from me weekly until it's fixed. And I know that makes some people giggle, but and then if we don't fix it within 2 months, I lose my license. That's pretty serious. It's legislation. So, for example, 22 students in the 3rd grade. You're not allowed to have 22 students in the 3rd grade. So all of a sudden, we have to hire another teacher, and we have 11 students in each class. That sounds crazy. But we're really having a lot of these unfunded mandates are impacting the way we can spend our budget. Now, remember, that's only K through 3. So while we have 2 teachers with 11 each, that sounds great. And folks are going to say, that's fantastic. Those kids are going to get great service, and they are. But then what happens at Murphy High School, Mr. McBride has 38 kids in his Math 3 class, because there are no limitations on how many you put there, and we can't afford a math teacher. So while this is fantastic news for our elementaries, our math numbers, our high school numbers, are actually suffering. So walk through a high school sometime, and those kids are packed in there like tuna. And it's not because we don't have room, we've got empty rooms. We don't have the teachers. I actually had the ADM of each school previously. Where we're at right now, some of those numbers would shock you. We all know that Murphy is over 500 because they had to play in the Big 1A. Mr. Gentry was talking to me yesterday, Coach, about why can't we get rid of some of these kids. And said, you're right, Coach. Work on that. Except there's a couple who are homeschooled that he wants to come play. He was telling me about them too. We've got to have a policy to let homeschoolers play. Billy when he picks them. But I love Coach. But Andrews Elementary is holding around 350. Andrews High School, after the December graduates, is at 195. Andrews Middle, in spite of the fact that we closed Marble Elementary, moved the entire 5th grade up there, are holding at about 220. Now, in financial terms, a building really needs to have about 200 kids to support itself. So maybe some of you remember the big controversy we had last year when we closed Marble Elementary School. Geographically, the number of students in Andrews, I just said, 330, 500, it's less than, it's borderline right at 700 kids. So we were supporting 4 buildings, and Marble had its own bus. That just financially couldn't continue, especially when some of those classrooms were those classrooms with a teacher that had 6 or 7 students at a time. But it was an anomaly because sometimes there would be 25, there would be 20-some kids in the 5th grade at Marble, but 12 in the 3rd. And we were having to play that game with moving those teachers. So people get really hot and bothered about the word consolidation, but that's really what we did in Andrews. We consolidated 4 buildings to 3, and it's financially helped us out tremendously. And nobody lost their job because teachers are allotted by the number of students, not by buildings. And you think about the Hiawassee Dam community, they're pretty consolidated. They've got 2 buildings. They've got 3 schools, but it's 2 buildings, 2 cafeterias. And they serve close to 900, around 1,000 kids on that end. That's pretty efficient. That's pretty efficient when you think about that. Okay. Oh, that's just more whining. The things that keep me up at night, and I already kind of touched on this, we don't have a resource officer in every school. And when I said I left to talk to the DA, it wasn't a personal business. We have student issues daily. We don't have a nurse for every school, and until this year, 7 schools had a full-time counselor, and the rest were only part-time. So we have worked and worked. Now we only have 1 school that has a part-time counselor. It's Hawaii Down Elementary Middle, and we kind of feel okay there because the high school counselor is there all the time and can be pulled down if they need her. I can't tell you the number. You read about the kids that actually are succeeding killing themselves, but you don't know about the ones who just try, and the things that they're going through, and the homes that they're living in, and the things that they deal with. So even though it's took a chunk out of the commissioner's budget, they've been gracious to us, and they have given us money for counselors because the state only allots us 8, and as I said, we have 13 campuses. So when we sit around in our budget meetings and our board meetings, these are the questions that we've been considering. Economy of scale. What is a big school? Are we a school system, or are we just a system of small schools? What's going to be the most efficient? And both things could be done well. There are horror stories out there about consolidation. There are horror stories out there about little tiny community schools too. Basically, the success of any school system comes down to leadership, the communities, and when I say leadership, I don't just mean your school board and your superintendent, I mean your commissioners and leaders in your churches, leaders in your businesses, partnerships there. And one thing for sure, anytime we have asked from Cherokee County Schools for everything, and this group is obvious, we are giving it. Last year, you all gave us $10,000 for school supplies. And that, even though we spent every dime pretty quick, that has been lasting because you helped establish a program that people continue to give, and we can make sure that kids have what they need. So thank you for that. But I really firmly believe if we can all get on the same page because of the makeup of our community and the dynamic and who we are in the South, we know how to make a silk purse out of a sow's ear for sure, that we will always be successful. I'll talk a little bit about what some of the proposals are. Now, what we did, we hired a company to help us do a feasibility study. Yes, they are architects, they all are. And I'm confident that Mr. Boney, who was the lead on the study, would love an opportunity to bid on whatever we decide, and that's probably going to happen. But he came highly recommended. We did bids to do the feasibility study. So some of you might have seen him on the video at Murphy High School. He's a funny guy, but he's not a politician. He is an architect. He will tell you that. Basically, we want to do a study first of all to kind of get a rough estimate of what anything would cost, because why pursue something if it's going to be so far out of our realm? Why even go there? So are these proposals? Sort of. It was basically just to eyeball what they would cost so we could begin funneling down and narrowing down what we really wanted to ask the commissioners to help us do. But to renovate the existing school, just to take care of priority 1 and 2 safety issues, that's nothing cosmetic. $74 million, $79,414,910. That's not cosmetic. That's not giving you new stuff. That's just fixing roofs. The Andrews High School cafeteria gym area. We're waiting this summer to put on the roof. If you go to a ball game at Andrews, I don't go there anymore because every time it snows or rains, they have to take till midnight to do the game because water leaks out of the gym, and everybody's like, "Why don't you get us a new roof, Conley?" They're screaming at me. Well, they're getting a new roof. We just have to wait till summer because we can't do that kind of construction while kids are in session. But close to $80 million for that. Where these proposals came from were the community meetings that we had, where people said, well, what if we did this? What if we did that? So that's what we asked them to speculate, the what ifs. Not without even considering at the time the social ramifications of having to combine schools, because we're still not really there yet. We're still in the vision building stages of deciding which way we want to go. So all you bulldogs can calm down. So one new K-12, $75 million. Now what that would look like, and I really personally don't think anything like that is ever feasible. Our county is too broad and too wide to make all the kids come to us. I mean, it didn't need to be up there if for no other reason, so the superintendent could say, I don't agree with that. That'll never be my proposal. I just don't think that's feasible with our geography. But that's a chunk of money, but that's what it would cost for the square footage for I call it a compound, a campus, very much like what's in Union County, Fannin County, and Cherokee. 2 K-12s, an east and a west. That would come at the price tag of $156,251,000. So is something like that ever possible? Only in phases, maybe ever, to do 2 K-12s. And as far as I'm concerned, if you can't do the K-12 model, why do an east and a west high school? In my opinion, because you're not gaining anything new there. Does that make sense? We're not saving on transportation. As I said before, if you can share a cafeteria and you can share buses, it's financially feasible to do things. But if you're just going to do 2 separate K-12s, I can't get behind that. Or 2 separate 9-12s, I can't do that. 1 9-12 with combining the early college and the Oaks Academy together, somewhere in the Murphy area, that was suggested. The caveat is the early college has to be either adjacent to or on the campus of the community college that it serves, that it partners with. And Dr. Donna Tipton-Rogers, they do have property there that they will make available to us to purchase, or if they could give it to us, she said, for that could happen. 1 9-12, somewhere that's not the early college and the Oaks, $65.5 million. Oh, the other one was $71 million. The other option, 3 K-12 campuses, an east, a west, and a center, to the tune of $180,000. Yeah.
180 million.
Yeah, oh yeah, I'm sorry, 180 million. Yeah. You see what I'm doing? Yeah. And 2 6-12s, I can't really see what that is, but I want to believe that it's somewhere. I'm not even going to speculate what that is because I don't even understand these numbers. But that's also an option of 6-12. But again, if you leave the K-5s where they are, you're not saving any money on those bus routes, on those small classroom teachers, on those things. So we have all of these factors to consider. So what this slide did for us, it generated conversation with the commissioners who said, y'all are crazy. There is no number on that on that board that makes sense to us without having to raise the taxes to a way that nobody could ever live here again. And that's what we needed to hear. So now we begin to funnel down, what can we do? Do we build phases? And what I intend to propose, because the state has launched a grant program where we can get, it's a matching grant, but for every million we put up, they can get 5. Basically we have available to us up to $15 million from the state. I would like to propose that we do a consolidation of the early college and the Oaks Academy. And the Oaks Academy becomes more than just the alternative school that it has been. The new models show those academies as vocational, very career-oriented academies that would draw more kids and be really a school of choice, not necessarily just administrative placement. It would also allow us to continue to house our day treatment program. Now, you may not be aware of this. We have 2 day treatment programs in Cherokee County, one for elementary, one for elementary and one for high school. Day treatment is something that we contract with a local health facility with for students who physically, mentally, behaviorally cannot, and they are prescribed by a doctor to be in a regular classroom. Some of you may not even know we have those. We also have an intensive intervention classes at several of our different schools. Those kind of opportunities and labs and learning in 3 high schools. But if we had a facility over there, our kids at different times could float through and take advantage of it.
So if they want to take welding at the early college, they just walk over to the Tri-County Welding Department to be in class.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's what we would like to proceed with our Oaks Academy. And the Oaks Academy is our alternative school. A lot of people have a really negative concept around the alternative school. Yep, there's some youngins there that need their butt busted. I will tell you that, Fred. But they didn't get there by themselves, and it's our job to get them ready for life, to give them a life. Some of them have had way more negative things happen to them than should ever happen to anybody. And that's my favorite school to visit. And this year, and I know it's controversial, moving them from the Martins Creek facility, which nobody should have been in, to the Marble Elementary facility has changed those kids there forever. Because, when you get up and go to a place every day, you kind of look at yourself as a reflection of where you're sitting. The room you're sitting in makes you feel better about yourself. If it's a nice room, if it's an ugly room, you don't feel that great about yourself. So if we could give those kids access to Tri-County, the kids who didn't fit the mold in the regular classroom, but guess what, might put on a welding apron and a helmet and do something fantastic with their life and become a credit to themselves and their community, because goodness knows it's hard to find people to come work for you anymore. Wow, that's exciting. So basically, we've got a brief window to get our act together, because anything that the grant is competitive, but I feel like we're strong candidates because of where we are in our facilities. And I've opened up a really good relationship with the state superintendent, who will be the one making the final decision. If we can get our act together, because we have to get the plans through the school planning department and the Department of Public Instruction and completed before you apply for the grant. So we've got a brief window. I want to recommend to my board that we go with a facility that combines the early college and the Oaks and build something really special over there, and theoretically serve about 250, 300 kids, which really helps Coach Gentry stay in the 1A. So I'll serve two purposes there. Tell him I'm doing this all for him. And hopefully, and I don't know, my board, I don't know, some of you work with different boards. My board is very passionate. They all represent different areas of the district, and they passionately do that. But I think we need to come to a consensus, or we're going to lose the window to apply. So, and the famous phrase of herding cats, that's my focus. I'm going to build something fantastic over there, and like I said, make sure that it's part of we start with a design that's able to be part of a much bigger design if we ever need it to, because hopefully this place is going to start booming and growing. And that's kind of the end of my presentation. You guys have any questions about anything?
I got a question.
Sure.
Your option 1 there is 1 K-12. Is that a county-wide K-12?
Yes. This one new K-12.
75 million?
Yeah.
So we need 79 million to renovate all the schools, or we could build one new one to service everybody for 75 million?
It would. Yeah. And remember, that's only to take care of the priority 1 and the priority 2. But let me talk some real numbers with you. Basically, the commissioners, when the courthouse debt rolls off, and we've got some debt rolling on from the building, the addition at Ranger, thanks to the quarter-cent sales tax that this community graciously voted in. We've been sitting all that, hoping that they say that they can give us no more than 20-25 million. We've kind of crunched the numbers, and we think we could squeeze them for 35. So we're looking for phase 1 somewhere, but if we could get this $15 million grant, then that would leave us that money of the debt that's rolling off to begin renovating other schools. Yes.
So are all these figures based on current student numbers, or are you doing projections of anticipated student numbers?
It's current student numbers, but they're helpfully padded. We kind of went back to where we were 5 years ago. And also that's $250 a square foot. And that's certain X number of square feet are needed for every kid you've got.
So did we lose 10%? Was that about what that came up to between 2006 and now, about 300 on 32, about 10% of our students are now?
Yeah. And something else that we're working on, we've reached out to the homeschool community. We've had several meetings with them working on a policy so that I firmly believe that good parents, especially those, if you're willing to homeschool your kid, you're the kind of parent I want in my community and dealing with others. So there's got to be some kind of happy medium where you can continue to do some homeschool but take advantage of the resources that we have. But our caveat is we need to be able to count you on our numbers so the state gives you. Now that we have our online academy, and I didn't introduce John Parker. This is John Parker, my Chief Innovation Officer, and he was here to help me set up the projector. But other than that, he manages our online academy, and we are offering 250 to 300 high school and middle school courses daily to our students, and that's really helped a lot of our homebound students when kids have to be out a while. It helps kids do their makeup work. We're able to, if a kid needs 6 credits to graduate, but you can only take 4 classes a day, well, guess what? Now you can take 2 online and graduate with your class. So we're proud of that. So utilizing our online academy, we might be able to pull back some of those homeschoolers. There are 444 homeschoolers listed in Cherokee County. The second biggest school. I mean, I told Coach Gentry yesterday that if they had a football team,
If you pull them in, then wouldn't that just really mess him up and send him to 3 or something?
That's why we got to build this other school. Yeah, Coach is funny. He really wants you to do this and he wants you to do that, but he doesn't pay attention to how it all contradicts each other. So but anyway, I really do love it. I have a great fondness of Coach Gentry. Any other questions? Wow. No question about bullies or... I appreciate your time and it open to any of your opinions. And like I said, I'm not married to anything yet, except for as far as what the other phases would be. I firmly believe that we need to take advantage of our proximity of Tri-County to get our kids access to those vocational classes. I can't imagine some of our kids, if they could, some of those girls that really don't have anything to look forward to and have no marketable skill, getting to go into culinary or aesthetics, and it'd be a life-changing situation. I mean, we all read how Tri-County's changed a lot of folks' lives anyway. We read those stories. I just want my kids to have access to that too. So.
Okay. Thank you. How many people here came to Tri-County and heard Dr. Young speak? He supported everything she just said. He said that they went to colleges and asked the people, if we guaranteed you $100,000 a year income, would you drop out of college and do a trade skill such as building houses or welding or something with your hands? 95% of the kids said, I ain't doing that kind of work. So we need trades. When I was in high school, you learned to lay blocks, you learned how to square up a house and get your footers put in place. You went down the football field and you measured stuff. We had auto mechanics, we had woodwork shop, we had all that stuff, and it helps, especially if you become a realtor and want to own rental houses and stuff. Then you can go out and fix stuff yourself. So you can do a little plumbing or something. But
and you know, Randy, we've kind of gotten this mindset that it's one or the other. You're either college prep or you're not.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be that way.
Right.
You can be college prep in the engineering program. What's wrong with going off to college to be an engineer and knowing how to weld? Wow, that just makes you more marketable.
my son-in-law's a welder, and he's working in Cartersville. Those boys make $45 an hour. More than realtors make. A lot more than realtors make. Probably more than bankers make, I don't know. But $45 an hour to be a welder. Electricians can do the same thing. They can go, I know a girl whose husband's in Puerto Rico cleaning up the mess. She said he's making $6,000 a week in Puerto Rico. So we need to learn the trades, and I think this proposal would be outstanding.
Well, thank you.
And I'm glad that y'all got to hear this firsthand. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Let's all work hard to support our schools. If you have questions, Jeana will answer for them.
And there's a board meeting tonight that you can come and speak against everything I said if you want to.
All right. Everybody have the rest of a great day, okay?
Thank you.